Hello, welcome to Dateline Abuja. I am Omelogo Nnadi. Following the enactment of the Electric Power Sector Reform Act, the Power Holding Company of Nigeria was unbundled and the Nigeria Electricity Liability Management Company was handed the responsibility of managing the liabilities, assets and pensions of electricity workers of the defunct PHCN. My guest speaks on the challenges of managing these aspects of the company. But before that, we will take a look at the federal government's commitment to ensuring that the investors in the nation's power sector do not suffer debt overhang in their bid to provide constant and efficient power supply to the country.
As we are aware, the privatization of PHCN was completed in 2013, and we now have new owners in the power sector. These are the new investors who now manage the 18 or 17 companies of PHCN. Now, this itself has a challenge to NEMCO. Okay? Now, what has happened is that in the process of this, the government, in its wisdom, had transferred the liabilities of these companies to NEMCO, thus increasing the burden of NEMCO. Now, that is the challenge that we have. Now, as I told you in my presentation, the quantum of liabilities as at the March this year is 752. That should be 757. That's the devil's typing error. Make it 757, which is what you saw on that. And I did say about 392 will be transferred to the DMO and NNPC. That I explained. Now, this year, that's 2014, and in the years to come, monies or proceeds will be applied in the settlement of these liabilities.
Joining me now is the Managing Director of NEMCO, Dr. Sam Abogu. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
As of 2011, you inherited a debt of about 500 billion naira. How have you been able to clear that liability?
Yes, as at that time, the debt was about that region. But today, as at the end of March, it's risen to 752 billion. Okay? And then the reason for this is because the components of the power purchase agreements has been increasing. Because as you know, we buy power from IPPs. And because we're not able to pay them based on their cost of production, there's a gap. And for that reason, there's an increase in the liabilities. And that's what explains this particular increase. So right now, as I'm speaking to you, there are about 757 billion naira liabilities.
That would make it over 200 billion increments in about, say, 3 years?
Yes, that is correct, because on the average, and that's about 5 billion naira increment every month in terms of price differentials. The reason for this is that the cost of power and the tariff, that's a gap. As long as that gap is there, you're not able to pay the generators their full cost. So there's always an arrears that accumulates over time. But we are hoping now that NEC trying to equalize cost to tariff, we'll probably not have more anymore. Since the transfer to the new owners on the 1st of November, we've capped our liabilities as far as that element is concerned. We now expect that the market will be able to pay the new GENCOs their full cost. But this was allowed to happen because it was a government setting, and there was no way we could do that. But with the current market condition, the market is able to pay the GENCOs, so NEMCO does not incur any further liability. So in effect, we've capped our liabilities as at the end of October 2013.
Okay, let me see if I understand this. You incurred, there were a further increase in the liabilities already adding to what existed as of 2011.
That's correct.
And one of the solutions, or the main solution to solving this, would be to close the gap between the cost of electricity and the tariff for electricity.
That is correct.
Does that mean that it is the consumers that would bear this cost, pay up for these liabilities?
No. The liabilities that has accumulated as at the cut-off date, the federal government is going to arrange its settlement. Hence, it created NEMCO and domiciled these liabilities in NEMCO. Now, what's happening now is that in the domiciliation of these liabilities, the government also transferred what we call non-core assets. These are assets that are not integral to the part to run of the business of power. These assets are mainly landed properties and lands. Now, this will be sold off, and the proceeds used to pay those creditors. Besides that, another source is that, on the date of handover, there are some outstanding debts that were owed PHCN by Nigerian consumers. Now, those debts will also be recovered by the new investors and hand over to NEMCO, also use them to also pay the liabilities. Now, the shortfall will have to be sourced from government budgetary appropriations. So, in effect, the consumers will not bear any burden. And the reason why government has done this is to allow the investors to have a clean sheet. There's no debt overhang on them, so that they could invest more on infrastructures.
Okay, as at the time of privatizing the Power Holding Company of Nigeria, what were the values of the company's debts and assets?
At that time, the value of the PHCN assets were not enough to pay the liabilities. So technically, PHCN was insolvent, if I may use that word. But in government's wisdom, and based on the strategies that were agreed, government said, okay, let us separate the two and allow the investors to buy the core assets, and those are the non-core assets and liabilities in NEMCO. Now, the idea is that the investors will come in and improve on those core assets, and at the same time improve on power supply to Nigerians.
But one would believe that these debts that were already existing before the handover of PHCN should have been paid from the management, say maybe through the sale or disposal of the company's non-core assets and perhaps the stranded properties.
In a typical situation, the sales proceeds would have been used to pay liabilities. That's a typical position. But the power sector was quite different. And what really happened in the power sector is that the sales proceeds were used to take care of the severance package of the staff of PHCN. So there was nothing available to take care of creditors. Okay? Now that's really happened. And that's why government said, okay, fine. Since that is the case, we're going to arrange for other resources to make good these liabilities.
Is there a timeline or target that you have for clearing the debts?
If I have all the money I need today to pay these liabilities, NEMCO will wind up tomorrow. So the bottom line is the fund availability. But again, we all know that there are a lot of challenges for competition for available government resources. And that is why we're looking at, we've given ourselves 3 years, 4 years, 4 years at the maximum to do that if our projections are adhered to.
You said something while you were trying to answer that if you have all the money you need to pay off the debts,
Yeah.
NEMCO will wind up today. Does that mean that NEMCO is solely here to pay up the debts owed by PHCN?
That is very correct. NEMCO is what you call a special purpose entity. It was set up just for that purpose. Just like what happens in the financial sector. NEMCO, you can say, is the equivalent of the AMCON of the financial sector. So the moment you are able to liquidate all those liabilities, you just wind up your operations.
Let me also take you up on something you mentioned in passing, That is the severance package for the employees of PHCN.
That's correct.
Now, it will be interesting to know how you have managed the pension of these employees. Now, that's because one of the issues the unions always had with the privatization process.
With respect to the severance package, and I need to make this clarification. NEMCO is not in any way involved in the management of the currently retired staff or severed staff of PHCN. NEMCO's responsibility is to do with the pensioners who are on pension prior to the new Pension Act of 2004. Now, what happened is that...
contributory pension?
Exactly. These people who left now are under the contributory pension scheme. Those who were before were not under that scheme. Now, NEMCO assumed their responsibility. Because it's a payment you have to do on a monthly basis, they are tantamount to be a liability. So since 2012, NEMCO had assumed that responsibility, and we've been paying those liability over time as and when due, except of recent when we have some issues with the budget.
So, in effect, there is no issue of pensions. There's no link between you and the old pensioners?
No, we are responsible for the old pensioners, not the new ones. The new ones have moved into the contributory pension scheme.
Okay.
Yeah, but we are dealing with the old pensioners who, by law, do not fall within that scheme. And people in that scheme, okay, will continue to draw pension from government until the last man standing, so to say.
Wow, that would be quite a time. We'll go on a short break now, and when we return, we'll take a look at new investors and the defunct PHCN.